very good morning. A
This
very good
call is
morning,
now
sir.
being recorded.
Uh, Respected Dr. Sunil Kumar Gupta, Vice Chancellor RGPV, Dr. S.E. Chaube, sir, Coordinator Technique, speakers for the event, Dr. Dinesh Chandra Verma, Assistant Professor, Mechanical Engineering, IIT Indore, and dignitaries of Oriental Group of Institute. I, on behalf of Department of Mechanical Engineering, invites all of you for this 3 days short-term training program. So, it's our holy tradition to worship of Goddess Saraswati before any important event. So, let's dedicate prayers to Ma Saraswati and seek blessings to enlighten our minds with knowledge. I would like to invite Tripti for Saraswati Vandana. Meanwhile, I request all of you to keep silence and seek blessings. Tripti,
Uh, yes, ma'am.
you can start Saraswati Vandana now.
शारदे मां हे शारदे मां अज्ञानता से हमें तारते मां तू सोए के देवी है संगीत तुझसे हर शब्द तेरा है हर गीत तुझसे हम हैं अकेले हम हैं पूरे तेरी शरण में हमें प्यार देना हे शारदे माँ हे शारदे माँ अज्ञानता से हमें तार देना मुनियों ने समझी है गुनियों ने गाई वेदों की भाषा पुराणों की बानी हम भी तो समझे हम भी तो जाने विद्या का हमको अधिकार दे माँ हे शारदे माँ हे शारदे माँ अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ तू श्वेत वर्णी कमल पे विराजे हाथों में वीणा मुकुट सर पे साजे अज्ञानता के मिटा दे अंधेरे उजालों का हमको संसार दे माँ हे शारदे माँ हे शारदे माँ अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे
So, to begin the
Thank you, sir.
program, so to begin the program, I invite Dr. S.S. Agarwal, sir, Head of Department Mechanical Engineering, Oriental Institute of Science and Technology, also Head Coordinator of this short-term training program, to share his opening remarks.
Good morning, one and all. On behalf of the organizing committee of this 3 days short-term training program, I welcome all to Oriental Institute of Science and Technology, Bhopal. As the coordinator of this STTP, let me first to all thank RGPB, Professor Sunil Kumar Gupta, sir, Vice Chancellor, Dr. S.C. Chaube, sir, in particular for giving our team this opportunity. I am sure we will meet our expectations. The main purpose of planning and organizing this STTP is to create awareness and enable a momentum in this interesting area of advanced techniques. We know that advancement and modernization has become a necessity, and thereafter role of academic and research institute become important as we are the starting point of any workable idea. Thanks to the young brains with whom we have close association who not only see the missing links but also help us in finding the appropriate solutions. I hope with our association with the students, researchers, and industry experts, we shall continue a fruitful contribution for the development of technology. Oriental family remains committed for this purpose always. This STTP has been designed with a lot of informative and useful sessions like modeling of ultrasonic milling process, advances in refrigeration system, advances in mechanical engineering and space industry, wind turbine tower design under various requirements, reliability centered maintenance and management, and I am sure our participants would not like to miss even one of these. I convey my sincere gratitude to the speakers and best wishes to my fellow teachers from Oriental and other colleagues of RGPB. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for opening remarks. I invite Mr. Pankaj Pandey, Professor, Mechanical Department, Oriental Institute of Science and Technology, and coordinator of this short-term training program, to share the insights of event. Please, sir.
Hello and welcome to all in today's 3 days online short-term training program sponsored by Tech Group RGPV Bhopal and organized by Oriental Institute of Science and Technology Bhopal from 25th to 27th June 2020. Thank you to our dignitaries and participants for taking time out and being here today for joining us. As a co-coordinator of this program, my name is Pankaj Pandey, Assistant Professor, Mechanical Engineering Department, OIST Bhopal, presenting brief schedule of 3 days program. As we know that HTTP on advanced techniques in and management. The main objective of this short-term training program, it will permit the exchange of knowledge and ideas between the participants and the speakers of different disciplines, which will facilitate effective, innovative teaching, research, interdisciplinary collaborations. The HTTP is intended to focus and provide a particular platform for students to gain knowledge and exchange their thoughts with the expert. During these 3 days, we have 5 expert sessions, 2 sessions in each day. We have experts, keynote speakers, professors from national level institutions. We have Mr. A.C. Mathur from Space Industry, ISRO, Ahmedabad, which is ex-group director. Dr. Girish Chand Verma, assistant professor from IIT Indore. Dr. K.R. Aharwal, professor Manet Bhopal. Dr. Prashant Baredar, sir, associate professor, Energy Center, Manet Bhopal. Mr. Gobind Sharma, manager, Mechanical Chris Bhopal. All experts will share their knowledge and experience with the specified topics. At the end of each session, all participants can interact with our experts. I'm sure that it will be very interactive session and it is helpful to fill the gap between industries and academics, and all of you can share your feedback in each session also. Once, thank you to all and enjoy the session. Thank you.
Thank you for your words, Pankaj sir. I now invite our chief guest,
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Vice Chancellor RGPV Bhopal. Sir, please share your views on this HTTP.
Good morning, everybody. And on behalf of RGPV, I welcome you all the faculty members, director, Sukla Laharwaji in particular, our keynote speaker, Girish Verma ji, whom I am seeing from IIT Indore, our host, Megha Bhavsar ji, and all participants. This is a wonderful time, though this is a tough time, but still we are doing a lot of academic activities, all due to this digital world. And as we are doing this program, 3 days faculty development program on advanced techniques in mechanical, industrial engineering and management for 3 days, that is starting from today. The first issue is how do you see the future of mechanical engineering in coming days? This is the biggest question. Because in my personal opinion, what is happening that, as you might aware, that as per MHRD, this policy of government of India, our automobile industry will not be same as it was, because now it has been planned to replace automobile fleets with electrical vehicles. So mechanical engineering is best known for its IC engines. So in coming days, it is in all probability that you will not see the IC engines. And as the technology is progressing, you are seeing that every control process is becoming digital. We are talking about artificial intelligence, you are talking about machine learning, you are talking about data analytics, you are talking about cyber security and all that. In my opinion, these all are tools which you are required to incorporate in mechanical engineering. If you want to see mechanical engineering as a branch of forefront, a branch which is always desirable, a branch which has been sought as an evergreen branch of engineering, which has been seen as a branch of engineering which is carrying this humanity and whole world, whole industrial era has been led by the mechanical engineering only. So if you want to maintain this forefront position of mechanical engineering branch, then you have to accept that we have to incorporate all these tools in mechanical engineering streams. That is, you have to learn about artificial intelligence, you have to learn about machine learning, you have to know about the tools and techniques used for data analytics, you should know about cyber security. Along with that, you are also required to learn about how the electrical engine and electrical drives, electrical motor and drive runs. Otherwise, you will be losing your forte to some other branches. Computer science, IT, EC, electrical engineering, all these people will come forward. So you have to decide on your own self. So already RGPV has taken a very considered decision wherein now we are incorporating as an optional subject artificial intelligence, data analytics, machine learning, as well as cyber security. Now all these 4 subjects will be available to final year students as open electives. Furthermore, I am also thinking of introducing this electrical motor and drives as an optional in mechanical engineering so as to prepare yourself for the future challenges. Because it is not expected from an engineer that I know this thing, I don't know this thing. You should be a complete engineer. When you are working as an engineer, then you should know each and every technology, which whatever is going in autonomous vehicle. Because the future of vehicle is not going to be same. In future, your car may be your home, or in future your car may be your office also, due to these social distancing norms. And the one biggest thing which is happening, and this has I am quoting third time, in Mahabharata you might have heard about Eklavya. Eklavya wanted to learn archery from Guru Dronacharya, but Guru Dronacharya refused him. But now this is a very different time altogether. Now in terms of this digital world, all the information, all quality information from all quality institution is available. So for every Eklavya, Dronacharya is already available. whether you want to utilize those facilities, whether you want to learn, whether you want to succeed. Now the resources are not limitation. In initial years, initial days of teaching, learning, the resources itself was a scare. It has got a cost. Now due to this internet and digital world, now it is in your hand. Now it is up to you in what way you want to use this all technology which is already available, the all information is already available, how to convert this knowledge into a skill and go further. So this is the best time wherein we should concentrate ourselves on the issues which pertains to mechanical engineering and in what way we can take this mechanical engineering further forward, at least in RGPV. So thank you very much for inviting me as a chief guest in this particular program, and I hope in the leadership of Sukla Lahirwarji, you all will be able to do the justice with this particular faculty development program, and my best wishes are with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your guidance. And I request Professor Gaurav Sahu, sir, to extend vote of thanks. And I request all the participants to stay connected for first session.
Good morning, everyone. I am Gaurav Sahu, Assistant Professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering. And I feel immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks. Firstly, I, on behalf of all of us, is thankful to Almighty that He has given us chance to be the part of this STTP. Especially on behalf of all Oriental Group of Institutes, I am thankful to Dr. Sunil Kumar Gupta, sir, Vice Chancellor RGPV, who have taken out his precious time to bless us all with his kind words. I am very thankful on behalf of whole organizing committee to Dr. S.C. Chobe, sir, Coordinator TQ, Mr. Praveen Thakral, sir, Chairman OGI, and Mr. R.K. Sahani, CEO OGI, for their kind support and inspiration, without whom this program wouldn't have been possible. On behalf of ME Department, OISP, I am thankful to Dr. K.V. Sudhakar, sir, Director OISP, and Dr. Manish Biloy, sir, Director IQSC, for their guidance in conducting this STTP program. On behalf of all the participants, I am thankful to the experts who have given their kind consent to be the part of this STTP. Also, I am thankful to Dr. S. L. Ahirwar, sir, and Pankaj Pandey, sir, who have provided their valuable support to take this STTP from root to the top. Last but not the least, I am thankful to all the participants without whom this STTP wouldn't have been possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gaurav, sir. So we'll begin our session now. Our first speaker for this program is Dr. Girish Chandra Verma, sir, Assistant Professor, IIT Indore. And he is having very good experience in teaching and research in field of manufacturing and machining technology. So I request sir to start upon the topic of modeling of ultrasonic milling process.
Hello, Girish sir. Can you share your screen, sir, please? Because it is not visible. And even your voice is not hearing.
Meanwhile, we are starting with the program. There are few instructions for the participants. If you have any queries, you can put into the chat box. And at the end of session, you can ask your questions to the speakers. Stay connected while we are starting.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Hello. Good morning. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So I will start my presentation. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Everybody can see it. Okay. So we will start our presentation. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all in this first session of the presentation. My name is Dr. Girish Sharma, and I will give a brief presentation on the topic modeling of ultrasonic assisted milling process. Now, we will see how to model a process in detail. Not all the details we will go through, but some of the details we will see how to model a response of this complex process, which is ultrasonic assisted milling process. Before going into the details, let me brief about the content which we will go through during this presentation. First is basics of ultrasonic assisted milling process. In this topic, we will see the basics, like the physics involved in this process, what exactly happens in this process, and what literature suggests regarding this process. Okay. Then we will see the basics of model development. Some of the noise is coming. Can everybody unmute it? Sorry. Yeah, it's fine now. So then we will see the basics of model development, how to develop a model, what are the things we should take care while developing a model. Then we will look into a topic like how the previous researchers have modeled this complex process, and then my work will I will demonstrate my work. So last three topic we will look into the completely detailed manner, because it's my work. Rest of the thing is literature, so I will explain it briefly. Okay. So first, the basics of the ultrasonic assisted milling process. Ultrasonic assisted milling process is a conventional milling process performed with the assistance of ultrasonic vibration. What it means is, in conventional milling operation, what happens? Hello.
Your screen is not visible. Please share.
But it shows that I am sharing.
Yeah.
Hello.
Once, please check, sir. Your screen is not visible here.
Okay. 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 Can you see it now?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible. Thank you, sir.
Okay. We will go now. We will look into the basics of this process. Ultrasonic assisted milling process is a conventional milling process performed with the assistance of ultrasonic vibration. What it means is, in conventional milling operation, what happens is there is a milling tool which rotates at a particular RPM, and this tooth has teeth, like multiple teeth on its peripheral surface. And when this moving teeth interacts with the workpiece, it removes the material in form of chips. Now, in ultrasonic assisted milling process, what happens is we superimpose a oscillating motion simultaneous with this rotating motion. Like here in this figure, we can see there is this tool is rotating with a rotational speed of n. Okay. Now, if we superimpose a oscillating motion at the cutting tip, okay, so it becomes ultrasonic assisted cutting operation. But there is a check that if the frequency of this oscillating motion is below than 20 kilohertz, it is called vibration assisted cutting motion. And if the frequency of this oscillating motion is maintained above 20 kilohertz, it is called ultrasonic assisted milling operation. So there is a brief, this is the basic difference between ultrasonic and vibration assisted milling operation. Okay, so researchers have suggested that due to the superimposition, like due to this presence of additional oscillating motion, there is a phenomena called intermittent cutting effect. Now we will see this exactly how this thing behaves, but as of now, I can say that there is a intermediate cutting operation, means there is a periodic engagement and disengagement between tool and workpiece. Like for some period of time it is performing cutting operation, for some period of time it is remaining idle, it's not performing cutting operation. So due to this non-perform because the tool is not performing a cutting operation, what happens is there is a drop in cutting force. As a whole, the average cutting force drops. So due to this reduction in average cutting force, the machining becomes more accurate, and the tool wear reduces. Also, due to this disengagement between tool and workpiece, there is a temperature generation phenomena, like is also periodic. So due to this thing, the rise in workpiece is less as compared to the conventional milling operation. Okay, so it's like win-win situation for like all the responses, but there is a check that it cannot be applied for mass cutting operation, because what we are doing is we are spending more energy for generating this ultrasonic vibration. What we do is we use a different kind of materials, like you can also use magnetostrictive materials for generating this vibration, this high frequency vibration. You require a special type of materials. Okay, by using this material you can only generate this kind of frequency. You cannot generate a vibration through any mechanical arrangement or mechanical mechanism. So for generating this high range of frequency, vibration of frequency, you generally require a specific type of material. Either it can be magnetostrictive or it can be piezoelectric. Okay, so these are two different type of materials which can be used to generate high frequency vibration. However, the amplitude of the vibration remains very low. So you also, for generating this vibration, you have to spend good amount of energy. So it is not recommended for economical machining. So for bulk removal, it is not recommended, because you are going to spend more energy. And for bulk material removal, we don't care about this accuracy and all these things. So it is generally recommended for precision machining. So for precision machining, either we can use specific type of tool, or we can like there are some materials which cannot be machined accurately by using any method. So this process comes into the picture. By using this process, you can machine very tough alloys, like which is used in aerospace thing. Also, it is generally used to machine composites, which cannot be machined by conventional machining operation. So it has benefit, but it cannot be used in every place. Okay, so this is the limitation, uneconomic, and it cannot be used for every, like it is not suggested for every material. So as I said, there is an intermittent cutting phenomena which goes behind this process, which results in this reduction in cutting operation. Also, due to this oscillating motion, there is a rubbing action between tool and workpiece, machined workpiece surface, which reduces the surface roughness. This is called ironing effect. Okay, if you will look into Google Scholar, then you will see what exactly is ironing effect. It is basically a rubbing between tool and workpiece, which reduces the cutting operation, which reduces the surface roughness during cutting operation. Okay, and it also results in dimensional. It results in higher dimensional accuracy of the machined surface. Now, what is intermittent cutting operation? See, it can be the best way to understand this intermittent cutting operation is through by looking at ultrasonic assisted turning operation, because it's a very simple process. Ultrasonic assisted milling is slightly complex, so that I cannot explain this phenomena over there. So I am explaining it in ultrasonic assisted turning process. So in ultrasonic, if you will see, what we are doing is we are performing cutting operation with a rotational speed n. Okay, and there is a oscillating motion given to the tool also in this cutting velocity, in the direction of cutting velocity. Okay, due to this periodic oscillation movement, if you will see this cutting operation in orthogonal plane, okay, so this kind of picture will appear. In this thing, there is a due to this oscillating motion here, there is a additional velocity which is VUL, which is periodic in nature. Like it sometimes it goes in this direction, in opposite direction. Sometimes it goes in it goes in same direction as VC, cutting velocity. So there is a oscillating velocity as well, which can be given by 2 pi AF cos pi FT. F is the frequency of the vibration, T is the time of the at which you want to find the velocity, and
Hello.
E is hello, yes,
Sir, may I say something?
yes.
Sir, without any picture or without any image, it is difficult to understand what you said.
It's
I mean,
here. It's here.
yeah.
Its picture is here.
Okay, ultrasonic machine and all. Oh,
Yeah. We will look into the detail of this process. First, let me explain the basics of the process. What is the intermittent cutting effect?
okay, sir.
So, due to this oscillating motion, what happens is that sometimes when the ultrasonic velocity is moving in this direction, in direction of the cutting velocity, both the velocity gets added. So the cutting happens in faster rate. Okay, and when the ultrasonic velocity occurs in this direction, due to this oscillating nature, when it moves in this direction, what happens is there is the VU gets subtracted in this cutting velocity VC, which is generated due to this rotational motion of the workpiece. Okay, so and when the VUL increases when VUL is higher as compared to VC, the tool moves away from the workpiece machining zone, which is it's a disengagement between tool and workpiece. And due to this disengagement, the cutting occurs, the cutting phenomena stops. And again, when the VUL changes its direction in this direction, in the direction of VC, again it's perform cutting operation. So due to this nature of this cos phi ft, which is due to this oscillatory nature of the work velocity, it keeps on moving this in this direction. It does not move very far away because of the amplitude is very less. Okay, but for some period of time, it gets disengaged. The period of this disengagement is very less. It's around 10 to the power minus 5 seconds. But the complete cycle of this oscillation is somewhere around 10 to the power minus 5. It's like if the oscillation cycle is, the time period of oscillation cycle is 10 to the power minus 5 seconds, for 0.5 into 10 to the power minus 5 seconds, it's getting disengaged, like 0.2 times of the total oscillating time. So due to this, there is due to this engagement and disengagement, tool work, the cutting force reduces. Also, due to this disengagement in this zone, the air seeps in and cools the tool, and which causes lower tool wear. Okay, so this is the thing. Literature suggests that ultrasonic when you will apply ultrasonic vibration in milling operation, the cutting force reduces. Here, as suggested by Shen et al., like he has done huge amount of work in this area. So Shen et al. has like suggested that if we will keep increasing the amplitude of the vibration, the cutting force keep on decreasing. Okay. Also, there is a Chang and Chern who also evaluated the effect of ultrasonic vibration in milling operation. He also suggested that if we will apply ultrasonic vibration, the machining accuracy will go up. Your machine product will be more accurate. Also, like Ko and Tan has suggested that if you will apply ultrasonic vibration, your machining will become more stable. Means the phenomena, the chattering phenomena will get suppressed. The chances of unwanted vibration will reduce. Now, anybody can ask me that we are applying some vibration. How can it suppress another vibration? Because it's a periodic thing. Okay, and we have tuned this frequency at the natural. We will design our tool, like we will see in the coming slides, that we will design our tool in such a way that it can vibrate at a given frequency. Okay, now other frequency will not affect this machining phenomena at very higher rate. So by using this thing, we can make our machining more stable through application of ultrasonic vibration. Also, there is a reduction in tool wear as suggested by Zhang Hurbin et al. So these are the some of the literature which suggests that ultrasonic machining is kind of win-win situation for all the responses. However, it's uneconomical. That's the only negative thing. Now, coming to the big type of model development. Now, if we will see, there are two type of model development. One is statistical and another is analytical. What is statistical? What is analytical? So analytical is coming from some physics. If you will develop any model based on some physics, okay, it's like Newton's gravitational formula. He have given any formula. He have given a physics. He have explained the physics behind it and developed this formula for gravitation. Now, if we drop any object and we record some data like time if we are recording, and we generate a model out of those data which we have captured from dropping this thing. Okay, so that data which is generated from the stats which you have captured, so that model is called statistical model. It is coming from a statistical method. Okay, and this analytical method is coming from physics. So this is the broader difference of this thing, that one analytical model comes from theory and one comes from the captured data. Okay, now as we have said, it is coming from the data. So by analyzing the data, we have to define the process physics. What is going behind the process? We have to, by understanding the results of this model, we have to explain the physics behind it. Okay. However, in analytical model, because it is generated from the physics, you don't have to analyze its result. Just here, you have to check the accuracy of this model. Okay, so it's statistical. It is actually because it is actually generated from a specific data. It is valid only for the specific experimentation condition. Okay, means if we are as we are going in same example which I have explained it earlier, that we are dropping some object from 10th floor and we are capturing the data now, and we have generated a particular model. Now, if the wind condition will change, whatever model we have generated from using this data in higher wind condition will not be valid for the condition in which there is no air. Okay, so it is only valid for a specific condition in which you have done this experiment. In cutting operation, if we are performing cutting operation on a specific material, then it is only valid for that specific material. This model cannot be applied for any particular other materials. Okay. However, analytical, because analytical model is based on a physics, you can mold that or you can modify that physics to accommodate the differences between these materials, and then the complete model can be used for that particular metal. Okay, so it's more flexible as compared to statistical model. Okay, but it has higher accuracy, because statistical model is capturing all the anomalies which you have not considered. Like in analytical model, whenever we have defined a physics, we take some assumptions that, okay, in this condition we are assuming this thing, so those assumptions causes error generation. Okay, but in statistical, because it is getting generated from the data, you cannot those errors are also included in this statistical model, so it is more accurate. Statistical models are more accurate than analytical model. However, it is only valid for specific range of material and process parameter. It cannot be, it is very stringent and it is very flexible. Okay, so these are two type of models which you can develop for any kind of process. Okay, so these are the pros and cons for each type of model. For example, let's suppose here, for example, I have showed you, most of us are familiar from this diagram, which is Merchant circle diagram. Now it requires some assumptions for generating this circle. We assume something like the material is perfectly this, and the cutting is perfectly orthogonal. So these kind of assumptions are there, and based on the theory, like there is a relation. If you will see the Merchant circle diagram itself, it's a thing which requires 1 hour lecture. Okay. So based on the physics, we have defined this cutting force. Okay, so it is coming from a physics where we have defined cutting force, we have defined a process physics, and we have established a relation. Now in statistical model, what we have did is we have performed some cutting operation on a specific metal. We have captured the data, like in particular depth of cut. Okay, the cutting force is this, at particular depth of cut the cutting force is this, and by plotting it or by curve fitting it, we have generated a cutting force equation of this kind. So by using this equation, we can also predict the response. By using this equation, if we will change the depth of cut, like here h, if we will change the depth of cut, then again then also we can calculate the cutting force. However, these are the, it is more accurate. However, it can be used for different kind of material. Okay, so this is more flexible and this is more accurate. So moving on. Now coming on to the basic, like how the literature, how the previous researchers have modeled this process. As I have said, there is an intermittent cutting effect. There is a time during which the tool is not performing cutting operation. Okay, so Nath and like most of the researchers have done that. I am just presenting one research. Okay, Nath and Raman, what they did is they have calculated this cutting, this separation time. Okay, at the time when the cutting process is not occurring, and then they have subtracted this cutting time, uncut time, with this the total time. Then we have got actual time of cutting operation, means the time where the tool is performing the cutting operation. And this ratio TC by T means the time during which the cutting operation is going on and the total cycle time. Both are in order of 10 to the power minus 5 seconds, but it plays a significant role on the response, like cutting force or temperature. It will reduce it significantly. Okay, if it will increase, this uncut time will increase, this cutting ratio will reduce, and subsequently it will reduce the cutting force, average cutting force. Okay, so they have showed here they have showed that if we change the cutting velocity, this tool workpiece cutting ratio, TWCR, tool workpiece cutting ratio increases. Means if we will change the velocity or change the amplitude of the velocity, this cutting ratio changes. Okay, it basically depends upon the cutting velocity as well as the ultrasonic velocity, because as we have seen here, it only generate this phenomenon is only occurring due to this cutting velocity and ultrasonic velocity. Okay, so if we will change this, either this or this, okay, this phenomena will, if we will change cutting velocity, okay, if we will increase the cutting velocity, and if it increases high, if it becomes higher than ultrasonic velocity, there will be no this intermittent cutting effect will not occur. Okay, so for getting this intermittent cutting effect, we have to must ensure that VUL, ultrasonic velocity, or the amplitude, we have to modulate in such a way that the ultrasonic velocity become always be higher as compared to the normal cutting velocity, which is given by pi dm, and is the rotation of this workpiece. Okay, so by modulating this, we can get this effect, and by using this phenomena, if we will multiply this cutting ratio with the conventional cutting force, we will can get the cutting force in ultrasonic assisted machining, ultrasonic assisted turning process. Okay, most of the researchers have opted this method. Okay. Some changes are there, but the basic methodology they have followed, previous researchers they have followed is this. They have just multiplied the cutting ratio with the conventional cutting force, and they have found it very accurate. Okay, so in cutting to coming to our condition, okay, this is what we have did it for developing a model. Okay, but what you have to do is, first you have to do some experimental study. Without doing any experimental study, you can't say that okay, whatever researchers have developed earlier, it is also valid for my material and for my condition. So for evaluating that thing, you require a experimental setup, and you have to perform an experimental study. So in this thing, what we have did is we have performed experimental study of UAM. For this, we have developed the experimental setup. Okay, we will look into the detail how to develop this, how to do this. Okay, just a brief of the complete work. It is something like this. Then after developing the experimental setup, we have performed the experiment. We have measured the data. Okay. Now I will brief something that first, before like analyzing the data, you have to test the redundancy. You have to test the health of the data. You will look exactly the same. Then by analyzing this test data, we can establish some physics behind it, and based on the physics, then this analytical model will be developed. Okay. Using those same data, we can develop the statistical model as well. So for developing an empirical model, there are some factors which you need to evaluate through experimentation. Okay. And then after complete generation of this model and this statistical model, both will be compared, because we know statistical models are more accurate. We will try to compare this empirical model with this statistical model, and then we will see its accuracy. Okay. If it is required, then we can adjust some parameter in this empirical model to increase its accuracy, to modulate its accuracy. Okay. After this, final model can be developed, which can be used to predict the responses of this cutting operation. In our case, it's cutting force. Okay. So, how to develop an experimental setup for ultrasonic assisted milling process? Okay. As you know that we have to rotate, as well as we have that this tool should vibrate at a particular frequency, which is very high, 20 kilohertz. If we will vibrate, if we will superimpose any kind of vibration, it is any such vibration in particular material, it may wear out, okay, or it may, the crack may get generated. So you have to design it, or you have to select the material in such a way that it can sustain this vibration. So for doing so, for designing this thing for specific vibration or this specific setup, you have to do some analysis. Okay, this is called modal analysis and harmonic analysis. What are these things? First, you have to get a brief idea about brief data about the tool length, tool design. You can get it like if you will calculate. There are tons of videos in which you can see how to calculate the. It is basically half wavelength of the vibration which is superimposed in this experimental setup. So by calculating this, we are roughly calculating this tool size. Okay. Now based on the tool size, then we will fine tune it using modal analysis. In this modal analysis, what we do is we find its natural frequency. What is the natural frequency? Like natural frequency is the frequency if you will superimpose that natural frequency in a particular body, like if a table or a window has a particular natural frequency, if you will superimpose that frequency, or if you will force any vibration of that particular frequency, it gets amplified in that object. Okay, so that is its natural frequency. It will vibrate at that frequency. It's its natural frequency. Okay, you can better you should take like if you are not aware of this, what is natural frequency, you can see the there are tons of class in vibration which will explain what is natural frequency. So this is the main thing, that you have to find out the natural frequency, because if you will fine tune the natural frequency of this setup at 20 kilohertz, then whatever dimension we are getting after this modal analysis, if we will use this dimension, and if we will superimpose the vibration at 20 kilohertz, it will get amplified, certainly, because its natural frequency is 20 kilohertz. Okay, so first we have to fine tune it so that its natural frequency becomes 20 kilohertz. Okay, so modal analysis gives us the natural frequency. By fine tuning it for 20 kilohertz, then we have to perform harmonic analysis. So in harmonic analysis, what we do is we find out amplification factor. As I have said, this piezoelectric element or magnetostrictive element which we are using for vibration generation, okay, what they do is they take energy in electrical form and then convert it into mechanical vibration. But this mechanical vibration are very small. It is in the order of 1 to 2 microns. Now we have to amplify it in the range of 10 to 20 microns. Because it is generally recommended for ultrasonic assisted milling process that 10 to 20 microns are beneficial. After that, the response gets deteriorated, or below that, its effect does not be visible. Okay. So it is the prescribed range 10 to 20 microns. So for doing so, because we are getting from a piezoelectric element, we are getting a amplitude of 2 to 3 microns. So we have to amplify it. So harmonic analysis does exactly this thing. It will gives us the amplification factor of the setup. If the amplification factor is 5, if you are applying vibration at this end 2 microns, it will get amplified by 5 times. Like here you will get 10. Okay. If you will superimpose a vibration of 3 microns at this end, at the tip you will get 15 microns. Okay. So amplification factor is the factor by which you are multiplying, you are increasing your input amplitude. Okay, include vibration. Harmonic analysis also gives us the stress values when the vibration is moving in this, as I have said, if the vibration, if we will introduce vibration in any material, there is a, these vibrations are generally rarefaction and contraction of the material, okay, as like sound wave. So uh, when this contraction and expansion happens, there is a stress generation occurs in the material. It should not be higher than the yield strength of the material, because if it will exceeds above the strength of the material, it may get deformed permanently, which is not suitable. So we have to ensure that due to this vibration transfer or transmission of vibration, the stress generated in the system should not be higher than this yield strength of the material. Okay. So after doing these analysis, we have fine-tuned our setup. Okay. We have got final dimension of the experimental setup. Based on this dimension, we can manufacture our this simulation. We have performed it for AISI 316, which is suggested material for ultrasound for designing any ultrasonic system. Okay, or on basically on. These are the condition. These are the mesh size, and like these are the simulation parameters. Okay. So based on those experimental data, we have uh, got our experimental setup ready. This is the exactly this portion. This portion is exactly this thing. Okay, these are the piezoelectric elements stacked above this horn, which okay, and these are the electrical supply. So while rotation, if we will supply electrical signal through this wires into this piezoelectric element, it will generate vibration in this direction, in vertical direction, which gets amplified and comes at the tip of the cutting tool. Okay, this complete assembly is enclosed in this thing in this casing, which can directly be mounted on any milling head. Okay, so this is a very flexible fixture. It can be mounted on any CNC milling head by changing the collet size, because like we know if we can see, like if we have knowledge about CNC, this is generally defined on BT30 ER40, like it's a collet size which we can fix it in the CNC milling head. So by changing this complete setup can be used on any experimental setup. It's a very flexible setup. Okay, so we have developed this thing uh, uh, for ultrasonic assisted milling process. Okay, these are the material details, why these materials are used. These are the tool specifications which we have designed it, or we have used it for our experimental setup. Now this complete setup then mounted on CNC milling head here. Okay, there is the electrical power supply. We have provided it through carbon brush. Okay, there is a workpiece, which in our case it is 6061, because it's most used material. It is aerospace grade material. It is generally used in aerospace due to its high strength and weight ratio. It is very useful, this material, but its machinability is slightly poor. That's why we want to improve the machinability of this material. So what we have did is, we have taken this material in a block form. We have mounted this workpiece on top of this dynamometer, so that we can record the cutting forces. We are checking what is the effect of ultrasonic vibration. If we will switch on the cutting, if we will switch on the vibration and we will perform ultrasonic assisted milling operation, what will happen as compared to compared to the conventional milling operation? Like, we are just comparing it. What is the amount of reduction in the cutting force due to this application of ultrasonic vibration? Okay, so in one experiment we have switched on the electrical supply, and in one experiment we have switched on the experimental supply. From the experimental data, we have found a very significant drop in cutting force. It's around 40 to 50%. Okay, So this kind of significant drop in cutting force result in very higher accurate machine surface. Okay. So based on this data, we will try to develop a statistical model. Okay. So how to do it? How to do statistical modeling of any experimental process or any complex process? How to do it? First, before going into the experiment, like before analyzing and like designing the experiments or capturing the data, first you have to check whether data is healthy or not. Whatever you want to capture through that data, is you are getting that thing from the data or not. Okay. First, you have to check the precision and accuracy of the instrument. Okay. How to do it? You have a torque wrench or torque meter. Okay. First, you have to check whatever torque you are applying to the dynamometer, whether it is giving the same amount of as a response or not. We have to perform the same experiment again and again so that we can also check the precision of the instrument. Okay. So these are the two parameters we must evaluate before performing any experiment. Okay. First, you have to check the accuracy, then you have to check the precision. Okay. After that, you have to check the precision of the data. If you are performing the hello, yes. If you are performing ultrasonic experiment again and again, whether you are getting the same force, if you are performing the same experiments on the same with the same parameters again and again, whether you are getting the same data or not. Okay. So after checking the precision of the instrument, first, then you have to check the precision of the data which you are recording. Okay. So after checking these two things, then you have to check the noise present in the captured data. How can we do it? In case of ultrasonic assisted milling, in conventional milling, if we will perform FFT analysis, it's a fast Fourier transformation. What it does is it transforms the captured. You are capturing data on a signal. Okay, on the basis of time, like in 1 second. If we are capturing 40,000 data, then you have to you have to check whether first let's say what is FFT analysis. Through FFT analysis, what we are getting, FFT analysis, what it gives is it gives the frequencies, highlight of the frequency which you want to capture. Like if you want to capture the effect of tool rotation, like tool is rotating at 7,000 RPM, let's suppose. Okay, and if it has 4 teeth on its periphery, so for each rotation, 4 times the tool is performing cutting operation, and for 7,000 times. Okay, for 1 minute. Okay, so accordingly, that frequency should come up. Okay, here in this frequency. So FFT analysis does what it does is it transforms the time domain signal to frequency domain. You can get the exact idea, but if you will look into the YouTube, there are tons of videos which will explain what is FFT analysis. As of now, I can say that what it does is transforms the signal, time dependent signal to frequency domain, time domain signal to frequency domain signal. By using this thing, we are getting the exact frequency. We are able to capture the frequency which is present in the captured data. In our case, it's 20 kilohertz, which is a ultrasonic frequency which we have applied. So that frequency is completely visible. So we are able to capture the effect of this ultrasonic frequency. Okay, and there is a rotation frequency as well, which is here. You can see here. It is rotational frequency. Okay, so these two frequency you must get by analyzing this thing. We are assuring that our data is healthy. If there is a peak, if we found a peak in this FFT signal, then that is error, because it is due to tool rotation. This frequency we are applying, and if so these signals we should get. If we are getting another signal that's a noise, we have to reduce it by any means, by making our experimental setup more rigid, or by mounting our workpiece on some stable position or stable platform. Okay, so you have to assure whatever you want to capture is is getting reflected on your signal or not, or if noise is coming, you have to remove it. Okay, so this is the rectification of the data, how to rectify our data, and how to check our noise present in the data. Okay, also you have to like if you want to capture a particular frequency, like if you want to capture 200 200 frequency. Okay, so according to Nyquist criteria, you should capture your sampling frequency. Your capturing sampling frequency should be 2 times of the frequency. Must be higher than the 2 times of the frequency which you want to capture. Like if I want to capture a frequency of 20 kilohertz, then I must capture 40,000 data in 1 second. It should be higher. As I increase the sampling rate, if I will capture 1,60,000 data in 1 second, it will give much more clear picture of the experimentation data, but it cannot go below 40,000 if we want to capture 20,000 signal, 20,000 frequency signal. Okay, so this is Nyquist criteria. By checking these conditions, if your system, you can say our system is stable enough to perform any kind of analysis related to this process. Okay, before analysis, you have to check these 4 conditions. Okay, now coming on to the statistical study. After checking the data, we have to plan our experiment in such a way that we can do some analysis, or we can derive some physics out of this analysis. Okay, so what we can do is, we now statistical is, as I have told you, statistical studies coming from the experimental data which we have captured. Okay, so first you have to evaluate the process parameter. So what is process parameter? Any parameter which you can vary in the process, like cutting RPM. You can change the RPM by through CNC through processing, like by manipulating your CNC codes. Okay, so by changing the CNC code, you can manipulate the rotational speed. You can also change the depth of cut. So these are the input variables which you can control. Okay, and response is the thing which is the outcome of the process. It's like surface roughness, cutting force, tool wear. Okay, so these are called responses, and the parameter which you can control is called process parameter. Okay, so first, in order to define any in order to design any experiment, so that like before, like how we can perform experimental how we can perform any experiment so that we can develop a statistical model. It has to be designed, because performing experiments randomly won't give you significant information about the process. Okay, you have to design your process in such a way that outcome of that experimental result can be used to derive something useful out of it. So in order to do so, we have to plan our experiment through some technique. Okay, there are different kind of techniques which can be used for defining these processes. Okay, one is Taguchi, RSM. Okay, RSM, CCD, central composite design, full factorial. So these are some broader areas of, like, in this, if you will go in detail, you will find different kind of experimental techniques. Okay. In our case, we have used central composite design methodology because it can yield higher order terms. Like here, this is the form of equation which we get if we will perform the central composite design methodology. Okay. So, and for designing this central composite design, like for designing experiment through this methodology, central composite design, okay, you require experimental parameters with their experimental range, in which range you want to perform experiment. Okay, how to check the like you cannot perform experiment on a very large scale. You have to identify the experimental range. Now, either it can be uh, selected basis on the experimental data. Like here, if you are varying your machining parameter and you are getting a response like this, okay, like here, machining like cutting velocity is varying and cutting forces first it was stable, then it increases random rapidly, and then again it becomes stable. So we don't have to bother in this region, because by varying the cutting velocity, the cutting force is not getting affected. Here also, it is not getting affected. So in this region, if we change our cutting velocity, the cutting force will change. And we know cutting force will affect your product quality, your product accuracy. Okay. So this is our region of interest, where here we know the cutting force is this much. Whatever velocity after this we are going to have, we are going to get this kind of cutting force. So it's very static thing. So prediction can be made. However, in this region, the cutting force is very random. Okay, so we have to model our cutting force for only for this region. We cannot model it for complete domain. So either we have to model in this region, or if it is continuously increasing, then we have to check our limits of our machine. Like we cannot machine it for complete range. If your machine allows it to go up to 3000, you should go up to 3000. Okay, something like that. So either it should be machine constraint, or it can be the outcome of the experimental data. Based on these two things, we can uh, uh, select our range of machine of designing our experiment. Okay, so based on the experimental data, what we have did is we have selected, based on this thing, we have selected our process parameters with their specific levels. Now for central composite design, we require five levels. Okay, these are the 5 levels. These are RPMs. These are ultrasonic power. So based on this experimental data, we have divided it evenly so that the gap between these things should be even. It is required for designing this this experiment. So we have used this data, these levels, and central composite design methodology to generate our experimental design. Now this is the experiments which we have designed using central composite design. Okay, so we have captured the cutting forces. These are the cutting forces in X, Y, and Z direction. These are the specific levels at which we have performed the cutting process. Okay, and these are the responses we have received from the dynamometer. Okay. Using this data, we can perform ANOVA, which is analysis of variance. It's a very there are tons of YouTube videos which you can go through. It's a big topic to cover. How to perform ANOVA. Either you can use software like Minitab or Design of Experiments, or you can do it manually. Okay, by using any of the method, you can perform ANOVA analysis. So I will basically tell what ANOVA does is it gives you the effect of each process parameter, whether it is affecting your factor significantly or not. Based on this captured data, it will give you a rough picture of the effect of each process parameter, whether the factor is affecting non-linearly, linearly. All these data we can get through ANOVA analysis. Okay, so after performing this ANOVA analysis, what we get is after that we can perform regression analysis. Okay, through regression analysis we can get regression equation. So by using this equation, we can predict any cutting force for any specific condition. However, this only is valid between this range of process parameters, this equation. As I have already told you, it is only valid for specific range of process parameter in which these experiments were performed. So whatever equations these are only valid for that specific range. However, its accuracy is quite good because it is coming from the data. So these are the cutting forces which statistical models which he had generated through this experimental study. Now by analyzing this thing, we have found that okay, now RPM is affecting in this way, ultrasonic power is affecting in such manner, so it is affecting non-linear linearly. By analyzing this thing, we have tried to model analytically. So how this analytical model works, how to develop this analytical model. So how to develop this analytical model? First, we have to see, first you have to understand the physics. Like, as I've told you, for developing any physics or analytical model, or as we say mathematical model, there are different type of names. In analytical model, first you have to establish a physics. And based on the physics, we have to develop a model. Okay. Like in conventional machining operation, what happens is there is a tool here, or here you can see this is a milling tool. Okay, like here it's a milling tool. There is a tooth on its periphery, helix tool on its periphery, which revolves and which it rotates, and when it interacts with the workpiece, it removes the material in form of chips. Here, if we take a section of this tooth while performing cutting operation, it will look something like that. If we will look into orthogonal plane, it will look something like that. Okay, and this will yield to a basic type of machining phenomena. How this basic phenomena occurs? In machining operation, we force a material. Okay, it slides onto a shear plane, and based on the length and breadth of the shear plane, you get a what I say, response or reaction force which we want to model. Okay, so in order to model this thing, first you have to check, you have what like in previous thing, if you will see in 3D, this is the shear thing, shear plane at which this material slips and gets removed from the parent material. If we know the length, this length, okay, here it can be told as AB, and the breadth BC. Okay, so if we will find the exact length and breadth of this area, and if we will multiply the shear strength of this metal here, we can get a response, or we can get a reaction force. And this is the reaction force during cutting operation which we want to model. However, in milling process, the machining is slightly complex. It's a whatever I have here, it's shown here, it's very basic, very primitive modeling technique. So in order to modify this model so that it can be opted or it can be applied for this ultrasonic assisted milling process, we require some modification. Okay, first, because ultrasonic assisted milling operation, what happens is there is a, because we are applying some ultrasonic vibration, some of the vibration also goes into the workpiece, and this ultrasonic vibration, sometimes it softens the material. So we have to also accommodate the effect of this, which earlier researchers have not accommodated. During this cutting operation, what happens is, due to this deformation at this shear zone, the heats get generated. Okay, now the heats, due to this generation of heat, the material gets softened, which results in reduction in the cutting force. Okay, so we also have to capture this phenomena, which is coming due to material property. Okay, so these two are the effects on material which we have captured through our model. We have also evaluated the effect of ultrasonic vibration on cutting mechanism. We have also integrated that thing into our model. Additionally, we have integrated the effect of helix angle. We will look exactly how this thing will how we have managed it. For okay, so for machining, what happens is the deformation rates are pretty high. Okay, uh, uh, in this picture, this deformation in this zone is very high. It's an order of 10 to the power 3, 20 to the power 4. Okay, at this high deformation rate, the temperatures are pretty high. It depends upon the material, but it is generally very high. It is around 200, 300, depending upon the material. Okay, at this temperature, the material may get softened. So what we have did is we have used a specific material model, which is generally used for prediction of shear strength at higher deformation rate. This is called Johnson-Cook equation. Many of the researchers already previously also used this thing for predicting cutting force. However, none of the model which is developed for ultrasonic assisted milling process have considered this effect. So first time we have tried to integrate this phenomena. So this is the Johnson-Cook model. In this Johnson-Cook model, there are many constants and there are many parameters which needs to be filled first in order to predict the shear strength of this shear zone. Okay. How to do it? Now these parameters, this is strain rate, this is temperature. Okay. Now we don't know the strain of strain in the material during cutting operation. However, there are some models, like there are some separate models for strain rate and for temperature. If we will integrate those models here, it will give a direct relation between cutting parameters and shear strength. We have also incorporated the effect of ultrasonic acoustic softening. As I have said, recently many of the researchers have claimed or found that if we superimpose the ultrasonic vibration into any material, it may get softened or hardened. In case of aluminum, they have found it, the material gets softened. It is in order of 20 to 30% reduction in yield strength. Okay, so by incorporating this factor, we are trying to capture the effect of acoustic softening. This is ultrasonic energy. As we increase the ultrasonic energy, this factor will reduce and it will reduce the shear strength of the material. So by using this complete model, we can predict the shear strength of a material at shear zone during cutting. Okay, so how we have transformed this strain rate and temperature. This is the strain which is given by Oxley and Hastings. They are very renowned researchers in machining area. Okay, so what it is directly transformed. These equations are directly imported here, substituted here. Strain rate is also substituted here. Temperature, for temperature, we have used Hastings et al. He is also a very renowned scientist. So by using these models, we have got a relation between ultrasonic energy, cutting parameter with the shear strength. So by using this formula, we can exactly predict the shear strength of the material at particular shear zone, so that we can exactly predict what is going to be the reaction forces during cutting operation. Okay, so by using this formula, we have calculated shear strength. Okay, and this is the complete model. Okay, this shear strength, like it looks very big, but it actually gives a pretty good result for finding our condition, for calculating this process, for calculating the shear strength of the material. This works quite fine. That's why we have used this complex formula. Now, if you will see here, in this constant, there are two apart from this ultrasonic energy, there are some constants as well. Now, first we have to, these are also constants which are already present in literature. But however, just because we are incorporating this effect first time, this ultrasonic softening effect, we have to evaluate this thing through experimental study. So what we have did is we have performed ultrasonic assisted tensile test. There we have placed the sample in between these grips in this tensile in this jaws, and while performing tensile test, we have superimposed ultrasonic vibration by applying the vibration through this uh, ultrasonic horn. Okay, this is the power supply of the ultrasonic horn. This is the back support so that bending should not happen. Okay, so by using this experimental structure or experimental fixture, we are capturing the effect of acoustic softening. Okay, this is the tensile specimen in the middle. This tensile specimen is same as what we have used for our experimental study. It is AL6061. Okay, so this is the data we have captured. Here we have applied ultrasonic vibration in a particular range. It is away. It is in between yield zone and ultimate tensile zone, as it is suggested by most of the researchers that you have to apply ultrasonic vibration in this zone only, because in yield strength we only want to capture the drop in yield strength. Okay, so it must be applied above yield point. Okay, and it cannot be applied after ultimate tensile point, because after ultimate tensile point there is a localized deformation which we are not interested in. So this is the only zone between there. Actually it's a true stress true strain data. That's why it looks like this. If we plot engineering stress and engineering strain, it will look something like parabola. Okay, so so what we have did is we have applied ultrasonic vibration in a particular zone between yield strength and ultimate tensile strength. By analyzing this data, okay, what we did is we have evaluated these constants D and E. Okay, now after getting this D and E, we have done prediction for the tensile strength or shear strength of the material. As we can see, the predicted tensile strength using those constants are following the same trend like experiments. So those constants are quite accurate. So by using those constants in that model, we can exactly predict the shear strength of the material during ultrasonic assisted milling process. Now, then we have captured the effect of cutting parameters and ultrasonic vibration on the material property. Now we have to evaluate the effect of cutting ultrasonic vibration on cutting mechanics. As I have told you that ultrasonic vibration results in intermittent cutting effect. What is intermittent cutting effect? As it's a periodic engagement and disengagement. Okay, so there is a rotational velocity Vn, okay, which is given by Vdn by 60, or D is the dia of the tool, N is the rotational velocity of the tooth of this tool. Okay, so the cutting velocity of this tooth is given by Vn. Ultrasonic velocity is happening in this axial direction or vertical direction, which is given by 2 pi f cos 2 pi f t. Okay, now what we have did is we have transformed these two velocity Vn and Vul, okay, in this direction, in this helix, along the helix angle and perpendicular to the helix angle, which is given by transverse to the helix angle and tangential to the helix angle. Okay, along the helix. Okay, so if we will due to this velocity only, the separation, like here, if the velocity in this direction increases, it will move away from this uncut machine zone. This is the physics behind, like we have applied this physics behind modeling this process. So if we will only consider this factor VUL, transverse velocity, and if we will plot this velocity on time scale, this is the time scale. This is velocity. This is the time in microseconds. This is the behavior of cutting velocity at different velocity values. Like here, if you are if you are performing any machining operation by with maximum ultrasonic velocity 0.5 meter per second and normal cutting velocity 0.5 meter per second, okay, something like this will happen. It will not perform any cutting operation. However, if we will keep on increasing this ultrasonic velocity, this sometimes the cutting velocity will become less than 0. Okay, which means the tool which is moving in this direction, in this cutting direction, will move in opposite direction due to its negative. Like because it's negative, it is moving away from the negative cutting zone, and separation will happen. This separation will yield into intermittent cutting effect. Now, during this time, the cutting is not occurring. So during this period of time, the cutting force becomes 0. So the average cutting force during total period of time will drop. Okay. Now, we have used this we have used this formula to calculate this cutting ratio. You can see the derivation of this thing in my paper, which I will show it later. This formula was derived by us, by Maya and my guide. And this is a new thing. This is the new thing which we have tried to incorporate the effect of in ultrasonic assisted milling process. So these are the two things which we have captured, which we have tried to evaluate, through which we have tried to evaluate the effect of ultrasonic vibration. Now, effect of helix angle. Why the effect of helix angle comes into picture? Because when you will see the cutting, the tool path, the path of a tooth, not tool, the part of a tooth, it will go something like this. So the chip thickness in the milling operation keeps on varying around its periphery. So we cannot calculate the cutting force or at each location, at each tooth with same chip thickness. So we have to segment it, or we have to segment it in such a way that the chip thickness in particular zone becomes we can take it as average. Okay, by segmenting it, and by calculating cutting force for each segment separately. First, for each segment, we have to calculate the chip thickness for this segment. Accordingly, we have to calculate the cutting force, and then all the things can be summed up together in order to calculate the cutting force for the complete rotation. Okay. This is a very famous method by Lee and Lee. They have actually proposed it by how to segment it and how to do it. So I have just transformed that equation in R for R purpose. Okay. So by incorporating these three effects, this is the transformation of the cutting force, and this is the transformation of the cutting force for calculating the fx, fy, fz. So if the time is not permitting, that I will go into this detail. So this is the cutting force which we have calculated. This is the intermittent this cutting ratio, which incorporates the effect of intermittent cutting effect. This is the shear strength, which we have calculated using this formula. So by using those two things which we have calculated through our developed model, we have tried to calculate the cutting force in ultrasonic assisted milling process in X, Y, and Z direction. Okay. Same. Now we have by calculating this cutting forces through using this model and the statistical model which we have developed earlier, we have compared these data. Okay. This is the statistical model data, and this is the analytical model data. Okay. These are the standard deviation in the cutting force which shows the if something lies in between them, in between this range, it's 90%, 95% accurate that our model is correct. Okay, this range is for this standard deviation, this error bar is for only for this. If something falls in this domain, if experimental data falls in this domain, we can say our 95% our experimental model is 95% accurate. Okay, so we have compared both the models. Okay, and we found that for macro scale cutting, our model is quite accurate. However, in case of micro milling, the model accuracy drops. Why is it so? Because in micro scale milling, there is a factor called scaling effect, which is dominated by friction, okay, rubbing or plowing, all these things. Okay, so in our model, we have just considered the effect of cutting phenomena. We have not considered effect of friction and plowing effect, which plays a significant role in micro milling. However, its effect becomes very less in case of micro scale milling. So whatever we have developed is not suitable for micro scale milling. For developing such model, we require to evaluate the effect of ultrasonic vibration on friction thing separately, which we have planned it for our future work. So based on this data, we can say our model is quite accurate for micro scale ultrasonic assisted milling process. And similar thing we have observed from this, we can see it from table, that the predicted this experimental thing and the predicted thing lies in vicinity of 6.5% or 8%. So we can say our model, like analytical model, is generally considered accurate. If its error level is 15%, it is considered quite accurate. Okay. In our case, its maximum is 8.7. So we can say that our whatever we have developed is quite accurate and can be used for micro scale ultrasonic assisted milling process. Okay. So this is the presentation from my side. If you want to go into any kind of detail regarding anything what I have told you, either you can go through my publication, or like you can go through my published work, or you can ask directly to me now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such nice and good presentation. Hello.
Yes. Do you have any query, like any of the person who is attending this thing?
Sir, I'd like to ask something.
Uh-huh.
Sir, tool life in ultrasonic turning on milling application, tool life should be subsequently decreased if we are using hard materials.
No. See, it depends upon your, like, due to this engagement and disengagement, what happens is there is a shock gets generated. If this shock value exceeds a particular thing, okay, then your tool life will decrease. However, due to this engagement and disengagement, the tool cooling phenomena, aerodynamic cooling occurs, and due to this aerodynamic cooling, the temperature of the tool tip is quite less as compared to conventional milling, which increases tool life. So in particular range, it is bad for tool life, and in some range, it is very good for tool life. Okay. Have I answered your question, or like?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, another thing I'd like to ask. So we participated in Baha. So for that, we did some CNC and all work. So there I met a guy who was specialized in our ultrasonic tools and all. So what he told me was if you use ultrasonic based tools and all for manufacturing these components, it's fine for 7075, aluminum 7075. But if you use it for 6065 or any other substance, its penetration rate is very less. He mentioned something about Rockwell hardness. And he told me that the Rockwell hardness coefficient that is used in ultrasonic tools is no greater than 35, while as in other.
No, we use titanium for the manufacturing of this horn. Okay, Actually, in our case, it's HSS. Okay. Okay, it's HSS. Due to
Right,
this
sir.
application of this material, the amplification factor will slightly have dropped, but the rest of the material will 316. Okay, which
Okay, sir.
which provide good amplification factor. However, it is harder than the aluminum AL6061. And for AL aluminum all series, like
Right, sir.
061, 2024, 7075, if you will use in any kind of material, na, it's very good. I have not experimented for 7065, 7075, and 2024, which is more higher grades for which has more higher strength to weight ratio. However, 6061 is the most used alloy. That's why I have
Right.
done experiments on this.
Okay, sir.
I will provide the feedback in brief
Sir,
formation.
which journal have you published your data in?
Mhm. I
Which
have it's IJMS mechanical sciences. If you will see like uh, it's a elsewhere journal. If you will go through it, you will find it. Actually, though that journal only publishes theoretical modeling. Okay, I have published my two works because I have modeled my thermal like workpiece temperature as well as cutting force over there. It's a quite renowned journal. It is like in manufacturing domain. It is like one of the rank of the journal in our domain. It's very good. Yes. Any other question?
Any more question? Please ask.
Hello.
Any more question, participants? You can ask, please.
If you want, then you can ask any
sir,
question.
you did your test in from Bhopal for the same.
No, actually, I have did my PhD and I have did my PhD in IIT Delhi. So all the experiments which I have did over there only. I have also done 1 month experiments at Loughborough University, which is in UK. Like it is in Loughborough. It is just 200 kilometers or 400 kilometers away from London. So I over there, I have done experiments for 1 month, and rest of the experiments I have done in IIT Delhi.
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. I think there are no more questions.
Okay,
And
thank you for your.
I am very thankful on the behalf of our participants and our OGI group
Thank you
for your valuable time. Such nice indeed presentation. Thank you so much, sir.
thank you so much. Should I end my presentation now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All participants, please fill your feedback form, which is visible in chat box, and this link will be valid for 1 hour. So please fill within hour. Thank you so much. And now we will meet again on tomorrow at 10:30 at morning. So please join the meeting tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Thank you so much. Thank you all participants.
Thank you, Pankaj.